If you're reading a book that you really don't like, this is the sign that you were waiting for to stop. I'm a week into having COVID and I'm feeling a lot better, but I'm missing a lot of things, like going out for picnics or even just for walks, or like reading books, because I just don't have the mental energy. And it really made me prioritize what I read. I have started maybe 4 or 5 different books this February, and a lot of them I just gave up on, and here's why. The books that I started reading were The Trick, Tales of the Jazz Age, Clara and the Sun, and whatever that last one was that I really hated. Oh, one that I finished and didn't enjoy was Alice Isn't Dead, which made me sad. I'm going to talk about each of them briefly, but before I do, I just want to talk about why you shouldn't finish a book if you don't like it, unless it's for a school or whatever. Been there, done that. I was often told as a kid that I had commitment issues because I would start something and like not enjoy it and realize that I didn't enjoy it and would voice that opinion that this isn't enjoyable, I'm not having a good time, I'm not learning anything, it's just making me miserable, I want to quit. And so I got labelled as a non-committal kid and I hated it. And so for a really long time I would just complete things simply because I wanted to complete things. And the thing that I realized as I got older was that nobody noticed the things I did complete. They only noticed the things I would give up on. And coming from a family and a culture that's very like, finish everything on your plate. You never get divorced. What do you mean? You don't change your career. It was all very, every decision you make, you need to stick with because it makes you look weak if you don't stick with it. Which is really stupid because you end up suffering, and who gives a shit what anybody else thinks. And because of that, I have always finished books that I've hated. The last one that I can really remember sparking the idea that I should just quit it if I don't enjoy it was when I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. It was so sexist and insane that I got so angry reading it that I started reading it one afternoon and I read it until like 3 AM the next day. I just read the whole thing and then chucked it in the recycling. That was the first time I was like, first of all, the movie was better than the book, which I never thought I'd say about anything. And second of all, it dawned on me that I had just wasted so much precious time and had gotten myself worked up and angry and frustrated for nothing. Books should be enjoyed. Literature should be for pleasure and for knowledge and for being an emotional roller coaster or just, you know, an escape, whatever. But it shouldn't be a source of anguish. I mean, unless you really want it to be. But it was just bad vibes. So imagine my surprise and my dismay to this month reading a bunch of books and really not enjoying them. A few of them were audiobooks. So let's start at the beginning. I've read some F. Scott Fitzgerald and I thought, you know what, Tales of the Jazz Age sounds interesting. I love jazz. There is some glamour to that early 1920s aesthetic of flappers, despite, you know, the poverty in other parts of their towns. Like the exact same town where people were having parties and like buying costumes and mixing fancy drinks, people were like rationing to save their families. So it's kind of tough. The book, it's a series of short stories. First of all, I've read books that have short stories and full-length stories from times even before that, even before the 1920s, that are interesting and relevant, and the themes are still relevant, and the characters are, you know, ones that you feel for, even if you don't necessarily like them. You can have an emotional connection. These characters were so boring, made absolutely no sense. I got 2 stories in, mind you. They were just so boring. Nothing felt relatable, nothing felt interesting. I didn't give a crap about anyone's happiness And it was just so racist, like deeply racist. And I just couldn't enjoy it. And so I quit. I was like, this is making me mad. And I've spent 2 hours listening to this audiobook. Next. So then I started listening to The Trick, which, oh my god. I can't even remember who wrote it. But this dude was trying so hard to be Jonathan Safran Foer, but it was just such a mess. The characters were disgusting people. Like, genuinely hideously horrible people. Like, you wouldn't even feel empathy for them. I love a book that will create a villain, but will make parts of them admirable, or will make you feel sorry for them, or have some kind of redemption arc, or not. But still there's something about the character that draws you to them. This book was full of really, really shitty people, and even thinking about it again is making me angry. Oh my god, it was disgusting. I spent 2 hours listening to it and it was just getting madder and madder. Like, I hate these people. I don't want to hear about their life. I don't give a shit. This dude is mad that his wife is breaking up with him. He's the one who had an affair with his yoga teacher. Then I listened to Clara and the Sun. I am a huge Miyazaki fan, and I've read quite a few criticisms from people saying you can't call yourself a fan of Japanese literature if you only read Miyazaki, and I was like, oops. So I wanted to read Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro, and I was 4 hours in, which is a lot. To be fair, the guy is not a Japanese author in the sense that you would think. Like, he grew up in England, so maybe not the best example of other Japanese literature. But anyway, I started reading it, and I love science fiction. I studied it for uni, and in high school I did English Extension 1 and 2, and my final project that I submitted was a radio play, like a podcast story. Fun fact, my teachers thought podcasts were boring and that they would not take off, and almost failed to approve my project. Oh my god, I wish I could go back in time, or go back to them now, and ask them what they think of podcasts, because I was 100% correct that they would take off. I'm not bitter at all. I didn't have teachers that gave a shit about me or encouraged me in any way. Ever, really. That sucks. Yikes. Which is why I wanted to be a high school teacher, because I wanted to be the teacher I never had. But I hate children. So, I started listening to Clara and the Sun. It's very bad science fiction. The cognitive dissonance doesn't work. The world building is very odd. Like, even if you try and play devil's advocate and say, well, the vagueness is supposed to be you filling in the gaps, it just felt very dull. Just androids in a world of weird kids. And I had to go on the Wikipedia page because they say the word AF, like children are buying AFs, and my first thought was as fuck, but it's artificial friends, and they don't clarify that 4 hours into the book. I found it on Wikipedia, so I don't even know how much further in before they clarify what AF stands for. Bad cognitive dissonance, which is like the main thing you need to do. The main thing you need to be on point with when it comes to writing science fiction. It was just not a good time. I really hated Clara and the Sun. I just found it so boring. I hated everyone. I was just annoyed. It was just weird. It was just very weird. And I can't find anywhere in it to kind of redeem it. That's the thing that I found was a common thread with all of these that I didn't finish. There was nothing in them to keep me going. Clara and the Sun a little bit more because I was kind of interested in how the characters would develop, but soon enough they showed that they were assholes and I just didn't want to continue. Now the last book, this one makes me sad because it's written by Joseph Fink, who wrote Welcome to Night Vale, and I did finish it because I was hoping that the end would be like a big twist or a big reveal, and it wasn't. It was just bad. And it also portrayed like anxiety as like a superpower, which was like super cringy and uncomfortable. And there's like an afterword at the end where he talks about how the way he describes Keisha's anxiety is like his anxiety. And I just I thought it was kind of gross for a white dude to write about his anxiety being as real as a black woman in America, like going through different parts of America, including the South, and being confronted by a police officer. It really didn't feel like his place. You can write people of color, but you shouldn't be writing their personal struggles. Not that you shouldn't write characters that don't struggle, but it just felt like such a strong choice, and it honestly felt like just diversity fishing or something. I'm still slightly hazy, so don't quote me 100% on anything I'm saying. COVID has really knocked me the fuck out. Oh god, I'm tired. The story is a mystery, and I was expecting a lot of hints along the way, a lot of secrets that were slowly being unraveled, and by the end of it you have more questions than answers, and it was just bad. So, what's the moral of this story? Life is short and you should just read books you enjoy. I just read The Secret Garden, which I'd never read. I only watched the film as a kid. Also, the film has a scene where the guy is like super obsessed with his cousin and tells her he wants to marry her. That doesn't exist in the book. Ew, why would they chuck that in? I really enjoyed the book. I also finished a book that absolutely ripped me into pieces, which was All the Light We Cannot See. Cried so hard, and I immediately bought Cloud Cuckoo Land to read afterwards. So that's what I'm going to start reading now. And I'm also listening to a Ray Bradbury collection of short stories, which is The Illustrated Man. Because there are some classics that are genuinely brilliant. And yeah, having COVID has really made me, god, this sounds so cringy and very, very like overdone on the internet from what I've seen is, but whenever I'm sick, like growing up as a kid with cancer or like any of the other issues I've had in my life, you don't realize what you're missing until you're missing it. But then once you're better, you forget what it was like before. So I haven't been able to draw, I haven't been able to read as I usually do. I haven't been able to cook for myself because everything turns out bad. I can't taste anything. I'm just really appreciating good books and thinking about how short life is, and just can't wait to go out for a swim with my friends, and go for a picnic, and just get back into doing uni work and making art again, going for walks. So whatever book you're reading, I hope you really enjoy it, and if you don't, get rid of it. Fill your life with things that are beautiful and enjoyable, because there are some things you can control, and the kind of books you read for pleasure, not for like classwork or whatever, are definitely in that category. So don't waste your time on things that make you miserable. Also, if you're in Australia, definitely check out the Japanese Film Festival. Oh my god, I highly, highly recommend these two films. I've seen a few more, but these are my two favorites. The Bread of Happiness, love it, very cozy, very cottagecore, has Kiki's Delivery Service vibes. And then the second one is sad, but it's probably my favorite Japanese film I've ever seen. It's called Her Love Boils Bathwater, which sounds so weird in English. It's about a woman who discovers she has cancer and is